On June 29, 2003, the deadliest porch collapse in United States history occurred in Chicago. An overloaded balcony collapsed during a party in an apartment building, killing 13 people and seriously injuring 57 others. The ensuing investigation was highly critical of the way the balcony was built, finding a large number of errors in its construction which ultimately resulted in the collapse. However, the building's owner continues to blame overcrowding on the balcony for its complete structural failure, although he has taken steps to strengthen the balconies at his properties to prevent a recurrence of the disaster. The accident resulted in sweeping inspections of similar structures across Chicago, with 1,260 cases being actioned by the city authorities. Background: the porch was attached to the rear of an apartment building in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of the city's north side. The second and third floors were being used as a party venue at the time of the collapse. For most of the partygoers were in their early 20s and knew each other from their days at New Trier High School and Lake Forest High School of Chicago's North Shore suburbs. One witness says she warned other people in the building that the balconies were unsafe, but another later said that it looked like it was newly built. It looks sturdy. 1. Collapse. About 50 people were on the top wooden balcony at the time of the collapse. 5. According to one witness, the sound of splintering wood was heard immediately before the collapse, which occurred shortly after midnight local time. 4. The collapse started on the third floor, pulling down other balconies below. 3. The first, second, and third floor balconies all collapsed into the basement below, carrying a total of approximately 100 people among them. Several people were also trapped in a basement stairwell. 4 survivors helped to pull victims out from under the debris of the balconies, and rescue workers had to use chainsaws to free others. 1 of the survivors was a nurse, and had started a rescue effort before the emergency services arrived. The Chicago Fire Department supplied the main rescue effort. 11 people were killed in the collapse, with 2 more subsequently dying while hospitalized. 57 people were injured. 5. Investigation. Initial inquiries suggested that the collapse was probably due to overcrowding. This was backed up by neighbors, who told authorities that the balconies were designed to hold only between 20 and 30 people. Chicago's fire chief said that it appears to be a case of too many people in a small space. Norma Reyes, the city's building commissioner, said, "I have no indication of any substandard problems or insufficiencies with the porch at this time. The buildings are not made for large assemblies and parties." However, it was ultimately determined that poor construction was to blame. In 1998, a permit was issued to owner LG Properties to install furnaces, air conditioners and water heaters in the building, but not to build the balcony. 5. The balcony jutted out 11 feet from the building, 1 foot further than permitted by city codes, and had an area of 231 square feet 21.5 m2, 81 square feet 7.5 m2 larger than permitted. 5. The balcony also had inadequate supports. 5. Was floored with undersized lengths of wood, and was attached to the walls with screws that were too short. However, the City of Chicago's Inspectional Services Department visited the site over 5 times and never noticed or cited the code violations noted above. Aftermath. 3 days after the disaster, the city sued the owners and managers of the building in the housing court due to a number of breaches in building regulations. Those named in the complaint included LG Properties, the company's president Philip Pappas, and George Kautrumos, the contractor who built the balcony. 5. The city was reportedly seeking $500 per violation for each day the structure was in existence, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a court order for the replacement of the balcony. 5. The apartment block was legally uninhabitable until the balconies were replaced, as they provided mandatory emergency exits. 5. The city's buildings department inspected 42 other buildings owned or managed by Pappas and/or LG Properties for similar violations. 5. The city also claimed that 21 other buildings owned by Pappas had similar problems. 1. They did, however, note the fact that he had since made dramatic improvements to all 21 porches. 1. In the aftermath of the disaster, Chicago inspected a huge number of similar structures to ensure they were safe, with 500 cases being turned over to the city's law department for court action, and 760 cases referred to administrative hearing officers. 2. Pappas continued to blame overcrowding for the disaster. 1. However, an undercover press investigation discovered all his properties now display notices forbidding parties on the balconies. 1. Pappas also claims that a police report says 2 unnamed witnesses informed a paramedic that they saw several people jumping up and down on the balconies shortly prior to the collapse. 1. In 2005, the city of Chicago filed a negligence lawsuit against 2 of the survivors, William Fenton Hathaway and John Correnda. The city alleged that the balcony collapse occurred after defendants Fenton Hathaway and Correnda intentionally and negligently began jumping up and down on the porch. 6. Correnda's brother, Robert Correnda, was killed in the collapse. The charges against Fenton Hathaway and Correnda were later dropped. No criminal charges were filed and Pappas was fined a total of $108,000 as a result of the collapse. 127 families sued Pappas and the city over the accident. 1. The balcony was rebuilt afterwards, this time with metal